Okay, I think we'll get started. You have all been very prompt in your arrival. Very much appreciated. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is David Scanlon. I am one of the founding partners of Resolve Partners, and together with Móna, we are the team who have brought into existence, conceived of and delivered of Ireland's only scaling sustainability accelerator program, Accelerate Green, which we have been working on together with our colleagues in Móna since about this time last year, when we went out to the Irish innovation ecosystem and said, we have a very firm vision about what the Irish sustainability ecosystem can deliver in terms of solving some very, very big challenges that the world is going through at the moment, and that align very well with what Móna's corporate strategic aims are, and want to bring together early stage innovative companies matched with Móna's experience in delivering large utility scale solutions, but directed towards climate solutions and building sustainability revolution. So over the last number of weeks, we have been going out again to that Irish ecosystem, talking about the value of the program, talking about the types of problems that Móna are interested in solving, as we try and get companies who would benefit from coming together on joining us on the third iteration of the Accelerate Green program. So we are actively sourcing at the moment for the 2023 version of Ireland's Scaling Sustainability Accelerator. Over the last 4 weeks on this Accelerating Green Ambition webinar series, we have been having conversations with people who are interested and actively involved in backing Irish innovators, particularly from the institutional investment side. So over the last number of sessions, as I said, we've had representatives from the NTMA, the National Treasury Management Agency. We've had people coming in from the new Foresight SME Low Carbon Fund, and we've had investors from Keeling Capital. So all of these people are interested in deploying capital and support and resources towards business owners and entrepreneurs, innovators who are trying to solve the most pressing challenges for humanity, both here in Ireland and on a global stage. And we've been trying to, as I said, start this conversation about what Irish companies who are ambitious to address those problems can achieve, particularly with the support of a program like Accelerate Green. So what we've done is bringing together this afternoon is people who can talk to what the program will actually impact on your business. So by joining the program, and you learn more about what's on that program and how it can benefit you and where the real impact can be. And what we're going to talk about is the experience of the 17 companies who have already been through the program in 2022 and what we have planned and in store for the companies who are going to join the 2023 program. So the session this afternoon is going to take about an hour or so of your time. We're going to hear from Móna, who are going to talk about why they have taken this step to back early stage and innovative Irish companies and how it aligns with their own corporate goals. You're going to hear from the team at Resolve Partners, my colleague Alan Costello, talking about what's involved with the program, you know, what it means to be part of this community. And we're very lucky that this afternoon we're also going to be joined by one of the previous participants, Pádraig O'Toole, who is the founder of AutumnSoft, a company that came through the first cohort with us, talking about the tremendous impact being part of the Accelerate Green program has had on his business. We will absolutely have time for your questions. So if people have any questions on what you're hearing from the Móna perspective, relevant to what kind of companies we're interested in working with or the application process and what's involved in the program, or if you're interested in finding out about the companies who've already been through the programs, feel free to drop questions into the Q&A and we'll do our best to either address them live this afternoon on the webinar, or we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So I think that's it from me. If we just move slides there, Alan, we move on. So as I mentioned, Móna have been an enormous supporter and driver of the Accelerate Green program since the very beginning, about this time last year when we went out to build our first community. And delighted that joining us today is Sharon Doyle, who is going to share screen because I think she's got some slides. And Sharon is on mute as well, but your slides are coming up.
Great, thanks, David. I think
Awesome.
that should be coming through on presentation mode, hopefully. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the warm welcome, David, and looking forward to, I suppose, sharing the Bord na Móna story with you this afternoon. I will admit before I start, there's nothing like a trip to the dentist at 2 o'clock before a panel discussion to really focus your mind in terms of how you're going to get through the afternoon. So if I am not clear, please do stop me and let me know, and I'll try and make sure everybody can hear me. So I suppose, look, what I'd like to do in the next 10 minutes is really share an overview of where Bord na Móna has come from and where it's going. From a personal perspective, I'm with the organization 14 years. I started in a HR administrator role in the organization, and I'm currently head of human resources and head of corporate affairs, with also the lead role on the Accelerate Green project at the moment. So I've seen a lot of change in the organization, and I suppose I want to give you a whistle-stop tour of where we are as an organization now and what's happening from our perspective. So if we step back, I suppose 2018, Bord na Móna announced its major transition as a we were the largest fossil fuel company at that point in time. We have moved from, I suppose, what was predicted in 2018 to being a 21 million loss in 2022 to delivering a 78 million profit. And we've become one of the largest sustainable climate solutions companies in the country. And I suppose for a lot of people, you'll stand back and you'll say, okay, how can Bord na Móna go from being the largest fossil fuel company to being a climate solutions company? What has happened there? We've been on a significant transformation journey from our traditional peat-based business to where we are today, with a climate solution strategy which focuses on renewable energy generation, recycling and responsible waste management, rehabilitating Irish peatlands, and developing additional low carbon enterprises. Over the last year, in excess of 70 million has been invested in renewable energy and recycling infrastructure, bringing us closer to being an independent power provider, which will play an important role in decarbonising our economy. And Bord na Móna is undertaking several highly ambitious and significant actions in support of our strategy to lead Ireland towards a climate neutral future. As part of this strategy, Accelerate Green has been developed to provide Bord na Móna with a pipeline of potential new innovations or enterprises operating in the sustainability space or looking to transition to a climate neutral climate solutions company, similar to the journey we've been on in Bord na Móna. The ideal outcome is that we will source opportunities to invest in, which supports our strategy. But if we don't find opportunities to invest in, what's really important is that we share our experience and our knowledge with the companies of the transition we've been through, because there is lots of advice we can impart, and we've all of the scars to share along the journey. So it's not easy. I'm not going to come on here this afternoon and tell everybody it was the easiest transition anyone can ever be through. It hasn't been. It would be false to give that impression, but we've lots of experience that we can share with the companies that participate in the programme. In terms of sourcing, you can see a picture here from our pre-accelerator program that recently completed. It was running from September through to October. In types of, I suppose, what types of companies are we sourcing? We're interested in established scaling climate technology companies. They will ideally be high growth SMEs who are pivoting to the climate change economy. Early stage, innovation driven enterprises are interesting too, preferably in the technology, engineering or science space. We'll be looking at the impact participating companies are making in the sustainability space and how we could work with them to help us achieve our objectives over time. We also need to remember that underpinning Bord na Móna is a support of jobs and enterprises, preferably in the regions where we operate and in the areas of renewable energy, carbon reduction and the circular economy. And we currently provide employment for approximately 1,500 people directly, and we manage a land holding of 80,000 hectares. Our mission is for a climate neutral Ireland by 2050, and our mission has 4 core elements, which I'm going to take you through. And I suppose one of the reasons our transition over the past 4 years has been so public is that we are the largest semi-state that operates in the Midlands, so more remote locations. A lot of the semi-states operate within the Dublin or Greater Dublin region, so there's a lot more industry, a lot more opportunities to replace jobs in those areas by industry coming in, as opposed to the Midlands, where you're looking at the peat-based, the peatlands, which are very remote. There's not a lot of industry coming in across those areas to replace the jobs that can potentially be lost through decarbonisation in Bord na Móna. So if we look at, I suppose, our key areas, our focus, our first core element is to provide Ireland with sustainable energy from renewable energy sources at scale. Our renewable energy business is one of the key drivers of growth in Bord na Móna. We provide very significant market opportunities to leverage our land assets, project development skills, and technical experience in operating renewable energy assets. Bord na Móna won 30% of the available capacity in the country's first renewable energy auction, RES 1. And we're currently constructing 2 of Ireland's largest wind farms, generating sufficient electricity to power 120,000 homes, with an investment of 250 million. These projects form part of Bord na Móna's 10-year plan to invest in excess of 1.6 billion in renewable energy infrastructure and generating assets to position the company as the country's leading renewable energy business. Over the past 12 to 18 months, we very much focused on diversifying our portfolio. So if you step back probably 5 years, Bord na Móna was very much an onshore renewable energy company. We've diversified, we've turned the sod on our solar energy, a solar park. We're working on a number of battery projects, biomass projects. And hopefully at this stage, you'll all have heard about the 2 offshore wind farms that we announced last week, which we'll be building in conjunction with Ocean Winds. And look, really exciting milestone for the organisation. And it's really bringing us into the next chapter of our renewable energy story. The second core element is to effectively rehabilitate our peatlands. Bord na Móna has successfully rehabilitated almost 8,000 hectares of peatlands. And the Peatland Climate Action Scheme, once completed, is expected to protect the storage of 10 million tonnes of CO2 emissions, enhance biodiversity, and will contribute to Ireland's target of being carbon neutral by 2050. Essentially, what we're doing in the Peatland Climate Action Scheme, we have about 250 employees employed. And what we're doing is we're bringing the natural habitats and natural biodiversity back to the areas. And that means that we're undoing a lot of the damage that would have been done through peatland, peat harvesting over the years. We're now restoring those peatland areas, and that will bring it back to natural form of vegetation. Some of you may be familiar with Lochbura Parklands, which is a really good example of how that vegetation can progress over time. And for others, you'll see some examples here. So if you look at the top, you'll see Umras Bog, Pulla Bog, you'll see Mount Lucas Bog on the bottom and Belmont Bog. And basically you can see those, that kind of square pattern that you're looking at there is basically where we have built berms. So we have blocked drains and we're bringing the water table back. Now, you will hear stories from people about, oh, will we flood neighbours? What will happen? Essentially, from a peatland rehabilitation perspective, we bring the water table back to its normal level. We're not looking to bring it back to any higher than that. That will allow the vegetation to grow back. You see Mount Lucas Bog on the bottom left-hand side. One of our main aims is that in all of our infrastructure projects is we will bring back the biodiversity to those areas. So if you look at the footprint of a wind farm might be 5% of the area that is actually being built on. So it's really key for us that we bring back the natural vegetation and encourage flora and fauna in those areas to return. Biodiversity and renewable energy assets can absolutely coexist. And that's something that we have proven in Mount Lucas and we'll intend to do with all of our projects across the country. The third core element is to deliver world-class waste and recycling solutions. Our recycling business unit continues to pursue its aim to be a leading waste collector, processor and end treatment solution provider to support Ireland's drive towards sustainable waste management. Today we're the #2 operator in the country in terms of waste collection. We are always improving our processing capabilities. We have a tyre recycling plant, which is the only tyre recycling plant in the country in Dunor Road in Drogheda. And we also have been involved in a number of other projects. We have one project that we're working on in Littleton where we're involved in silage wrap recycling. So for those of you from a farming background, you recognize the black silage wrap off bales. So we take that and we bring it back to, we recycle it back to plastic pellets. So a lot of exciting opportunities in the circular economy space. We do believe probably Ireland is not where it needs to be from a circular economy perspective, and that will only evolve over time. I suppose renewable energy has progressed quite quickly in a short space of time for a number of reasons. And we expect that over time here, the circular economy will become much more focused, and there'll be a bigger target for improvement in that area. Finally, our fourth core element is to help Ireland reimagine how it engages with climate action. Borden Móna has a proud history of providing sustainable employment to the communities we operate in, and we want to continue with that tradition as a climate solutions company by partnering with leading companies and organisations to develop new approaches for climate action. One of these approaches is Accelerate Green, targeting companies supporting the transition to a zero carbon economy in partnership. We actively engage throughout the programme with expert talks, with engagement over dinner, connecting with companies with relevant contacts inside and outside our business, and providing access to facilities both in the form of the Accelerate Green Innovation Hub in Bora, where we have offices, meeting rooms, etc., and for companies to operate from. So we have facilities that are available as we vacate those facilities. An example is Móna Drones has located in one of our workshops in Bel-Air and Ballycumber. Really farms we're working with on a Ballydermot site as well. So we have a number of facilities that will become available as we remove ourselves from the peat harvesting areas as well. And I suppose, look, ultimately our success is measured against employment, climate policy and commercial viability. And we believe Accelerate Green can help us to enable this. As a commercial semi-state company, a lot of commercial semi-states have the opportunity or take the approach that their main focus is on commercial viability. And from our perspective, it is absolutely key that we're commercially viable. But one of the bigger mantras and one of the bigger focuses we have as a Midlands-based semi-state is to try and provide opportunities to replace the employment that may be lost as a result of decarbonising the business. Some of that will be through our renewable recycling businesses, and more of that will be through partnering with other climate solutions companies. And in the end, if we find opportunities where we can't partner with those companies, but we can provide facilities and they provide opportunities for employment for people in the Midlands to upskill, it's a win-win for all of us. So delighted to be partnering with Resolve Partners again this year for the new programme. Last year's programme, I have to say, both the pre-accelerator and the programme itself were a resounding success. I have had the pleasure of meeting a number of the companies that participated in the programme. And I think suffice to say, we will always say we thought the programme was a great success, but really hearing from those participants and hearing their experience, it's what's going to tell you whether you're going to benefit or not. So I hope some people have learned a little bit more about Borden Móna and they no longer see us as the peak guys, and they'll think about renewable energy, recycling and rehabilitation in the future. And if anyone has any questions, we'll be delighted to take them. So thanks so much for your time.
Super. Thanks so much, Sharon. I can't believe you missed the opportunity to hit the tagline, like more than Móna, right?
It's only emerging, David. I don't want to wear it out. It's only emerging. So we will have a campaign coming in January that will talk a lot more about what we're doing and those individual projects, but let's not wear it out before Christmas.
Okay, done. Right. That's
Thanks,
the only time.
David.
That's the only time I'll say it. So Sharon, if you can unshare screen there, and we'll let Alan send in. So just while Alan is sort of getting set up there, maybe just to add to Sharon, talking through Borden Móna's connection with the program. Obviously, talking about the space and the direct sort of support for the program itself, and we can talk more detail about that. But definitely, I think for me, working with Borden Móna and the two cohorts of the program during 2022, my takeaway was, it's just incredible to have this opportunity to work with somebody who's so ambitious as an organization. Like, the ambition is it's just amazing. Like, we saw it this week with the offshore projects that were announced with the Ocean Winds guys. So huge ambition, and we would definitely seek to work with business owners and entrepreneurs with the same level of shared ambition. And then the second piece then is, it's the people in Borden Móna. Sharon talked about some of the key areas of industrial focus there. the renewables, the carbon capture on the wetland side of things, and the the waste reuse and recycling and repurposing side of it. But being able to reach in effectively to the commercial teams in power generation, or from the AES side, and say, look, we've got a company who's got questions about this sector, about how these problems manifest, or where this opportunity might be, or what does it look like in other markets? The insights within Bord na Móna that is just on site and available to people participating in Accelerate Green is second to none. And it's just hugely valuable in its own right. So I have to commend the Bord na Móna team for making themselves available down in Bora to meet with our teams. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Alan Costello, and I noted that our guest speaker Porrick has just joined us there as well. So Porrick, I'll ask you to stay on mute for the moment, and we'll have you up on the stage shortly. Alan Costello, who is one of my co-founding partners in Resolve Partners, is going to talk through the structure of the program and what's actually involved, what it means to be part of a company in the Accelerate Green program. So Alan, over to you.
Thanks, David, and thanks, Sharon, for your previous presentation. I'd echo David's comment, one of David's comments in particular. I talk about when companies have the opportunity to interact with Bord na Móna, I say respectfully, you can almost practice on Bord na Móna that they will, that as being part of the program, they're kind of involved and incented to support companies to develop value propositions that are real and are practical and applicable in working with utilities, working with energy companies, working with waste management companies, or working in the rehabilitation side of things. So they've been fantastic partners to work with. I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes about what is Accelerate Green, who comes on the program, and what the program is going to look like. So the actual detail of what this Accelerate Green program and what a scaling climate accelerator is. And then I'll come back a little bit later on, and I'll talk a little bit about the application process and what happens after this Friday, December the 2nd, that Sharon has already flagged. So what is Accelerate Green? It's Ireland's first scaling acceleration program for the climate change economy. And each of those words are kind of carefully chosen. We are interested in companies that are scaling, perhaps they have already raised funding, or they're about to raise funding, or they are on a pathway to being able to raise fairly significant funding. They might have significant technologies that or potential technologies that are going to take them on a jump forward. We want to put them on an acceleration program. So our team have run now on 35, 40 accelerator programs, and there's an experience built into the design of an accelerator that is fast-paced, high-touch, intensive program of learning, fine, but really, really deep applying the program and applying those learnings to your business, and applying those learnings to your business in a way that helps you to grow. And it's for the climate change economy. So unashamedly, and we'll go into this in more detail, we're looking for companies that are either already working in the climate change economy, or those companies who could use their existing technologies and science and port or pivot that into the climate change economy. That's what we're here for. That's what we're mission-led to try and deliver. We're talking about scaling or commercial pathfinding, internationalizing, significant fundraise. Well, I think what's important here is that all of our team are, scientists and technologists and engineers, but we're not going to be sitting over your shoulder working on the code with you, or working on the particular science. We're obsessing about the commercial growth of the company and the fast and sustainable growth of the company. So we're focused on that element of your business, whether you're 2 people, 5 people, 20 people in the company. We're interested in your growth trajectory, about what you can benefit from the program and what you can be pushed and supported during the program. So who's behind it? You've already heard from Sharon representing the Bord na Móna partnership. This is actually, I suppose, this program has been discussed and planned for a number of years across a wide number of stakeholders in the enterprise agencies, research, Bord na Móna, throughout the Midlands, but wider than the Midlands now. And it is now managed and delivered by Resolve Partners. And we are a group of individuals who have been experienced and working in growing, scaling, and raising investment for early stage and scaling technology companies for by and large the last 15 years. Some of you might know us as being the team that ran the NDRC for 5 years, which was an organization that invested in about 300 companies in Ireland. And what we've been doing for the last number of years is focusing that growth and investment work on this climate and sustainability economy and the climate and sustainability entrepreneurs that are on this Zoom call with us. We have a kind of experience from that startup and investment side, but it also goes through the corporate transformation. And this speaks to part of our thesis that we need to work with corporates in the climate transition. We need to both support corporates in the work that they're trying to do to reduce their carbon footprints, and obviously Board One have very particular native elements to that. But in a wider sense, we need our startup companies and our scale-up companies to work with corporates to help reduce carbon and reduce carbon impact, but also then to maybe partner with those companies so that they scale, they platform, that they will be able to have a better chance of internationalizing through partnering with corporates than they might otherwise have had to do themselves. So our team, we've been involved in raising over 100 million. I think that's an all numbers, probably closer to 150 million of startup capital and running in excess of 100 million euro budgets in corporate R&D. So we understand and bridge that space between startup, scale up, and corporate. They don't all talk the same language, and having a curator or having a translator is beneficial to all parties. To talk a little bit about the type of people that will come on the program. You know, we're not going to get away from the fact that it's senior leadership, members of the senior leadership team of startups and scale-ups and SMEs that are coming on. It's usually the commercial leader of the organization. We've had COOs, we've had CTOs also participating in the program before. But really, we're focused on working with people who can make decisions, who can actually steer the direction and the change of their businesses through the interactions that they're having on the program. So it's going to be the senior people, not just one person. We're available and open to have a number of members of the team joining us on the program, either for all of the program or for some areas of the program that might be particularly relevant on the finance side or might be particularly relevant on the climate value proposition side, as the case may be. And the type of companies that we're looking for will fit into, I suppose, a number of different segments, and that's means that we're not going to be exclusive. We're looking for the best companies, but you might identify yourselves as being part of one of these, that you have strong technology, science, or engineering who are committed to the climate sustainability agenda, who are committed to trying to change the ill effects of climate change and of over carbon usage and utilization in the economy. You might be an existing SME who is already working in either this sector, or you might be an existing technology used in another sector that now has a use case or a potential value proposition in the climate and sustainability sector. You might hear a little bit more about that from one of our guest speakers shortly. Or you might be what we call a scale-up. These might be investment-backed businesses who have already raised their seed round, or might be close to raising their seed round, or even their A round of private investment. And these companies are the type of leaders who are on a trajectory of growth, of internationalization and scaling that we're looking for, that are authentic in the climate and sustainability space. So to jump through a couple of examples of the companies that have been on the program before, across both of our programs before, I won't talk about Autumnsoft. Porrick will have plenty to say for himself in an interview with Angela next. Companies like Epicensor are a venture-backed company based in Limerick, working on understanding the exact amounts of energy being used by large-scale industrial equipment. They're currently working with server farms. They're currently working with electric charging stations internationally, and they're on a particular growth trajectory. Companies like Cameromatics, who are an interesting example of a company who pivoted within the course of the program. They were working in the ESG space, particularly around a governance piece around helping large fleet operators to have better driving skills and be able to monitor and support their drivers of trucks in Europe and US. but they developed out a value proposition around the climate space where they were able to actually capture scope 3 emissions from people who are traveling to and from work, as well as the emissions that were being generated by those fleets. So they've pivoted their whole business from being just a governance piece on fleet videomatics into a much wider climate monitoring and climate action solution for anybody with a transport fleet or anybody, any large company with lots of staff driving in and out of work. We have companies like Positive Carbon who are trying to reduce food waste by using artificial intelligence to understand what food is being thrown in the bin. One of the startling facts we discovered was that 33% of all food that is prepared is wasted and just thrown straight in the bin without even reaching a customer's plate. Or companies like Woodco Energy, who have a span of businesses across biomass boilers and are increasing their R&D effort with support from people like Intertrade Ireland and the European Space Agency to develop those biomass boilers in new use cases, at the same time as developing new business units in PV installations around Ireland. So we have companies that are spanning across the energy electrification side of climate change. We have companies that are spanning across the bioeconomy and the circularity of climate change. To talk about the program and the structure, what we're actually going to do to you, should you apply and be successfully accepted, we will be building in 8 two-day off-site modules. So it's a reasonably heavy time commitment. We take you to Bora, which is a Móna facility just south of Tullamore. And we do that from January until the middle of May. And we take you off site and we take you through a series of presentations and workshops that are not just didactic and taught at you. It's a case of, this is a useful tool and a framework. Now, how do you make this work for you? How do you make this how does this help you to think about the way that your business works, operates, could operate, or should operate? So it's a very interactive session. So some of it is led by module leaders, and a lot of it is led by the peers that are around the room. And you might think that the high quality entrepreneurs that you're also in a room with is at least a significant part of the program that can't be quantified. We bring through a series of guest speakers. So what we call our lunchtime speaker sessions are ecosystem leaders. These are people who are coming from research, from government, from finance, from institutions, and a lot from industry. So obviously you'd expect to see Bord na Móna coming across, and I know some of the people on the call are actually calendared in already to come and speak to us. But we'll also bring in heads of sustainability or heads of finance from Glanbia, from Kerry, from Ryanair, from CRH, from Kingspan, from a multitude of different corporate partners who are interested in coming in and speaking at the program, and who are interested in meeting you, meeting you companies. And that's a really interesting perspective to hear how other people are thinking about this climate transition, how they're thinking about how their businesses are changing or need to change. And it's not directly a meet the buyer type of an event, but it's more about an understanding the common language or understanding the needs and pains and perspectives of the other person in the room, such that it benefits the companies that do come on the program. And then our evening dinner speaker series we call our Ambition series. And that is entrepreneurs and investors who have been there, done that. Often they've learned through failure, often and most often they've had excellent successes, and they're sharing the benefits of their learnings, and as well as being a fantastic networking event for you, the companies, to interact with us in Tullamore in a kind of a social occasion. So the program itself spans these 8 modules. And they are tailored to companies that are hitting that growth stage, that scaling stage, and they're tailored to companies that are hitting that climate and sustainability agenda. So you'd expect us to talk about value proposition and a scalable value proposition and quantifying and understanding the data behind it. But we will bridge that into the climate value proposition agenda, and to understand, yes, what it is you're doing in your own business around climate, but more particularly what it is that you're doing in your business that appeals to your corporate customers, your government customers, your climate related investors, as it may be. Our If you like, our sales and marketing module is actually more focused around internationalization and corporate partnering. Our financing module isn't so much around, we'll support with seed investment ourselves directly, but we wanted to bring out the much wider and richer variety of financing, whether it's going for later stage investment rounds or whether it's understanding the values of debt finance, asset finance, project finance, whatever the case may be. And our leadership and culture module is a real capstone where we're thinking about and helping you to think about what your company is going to look like as it goes from 5 people to 15 people, from 15 people to 50 people. What's it like for founders to start handing off responsibility as founders to your management team? What it's like to grow culture in a business that is high growth but still sustainable. And the kind of people that we wrap around the program are, well, frankly, a huge number of people. I don't expect anyone to take in the full remit of all of the different mentors and speakers and investors that we would wrap around the program. So the 2-day modules are, think of them like a skeleton, or think of them like a tree trunk around which we're bringing speakers, mentors, investors, corporate learnings and corporate opportunities to practice, and leaders, as our module leaders, our national and international leaders in the areas that they are going to be speaking on and challenging you on. And I think that challenging point is something that's worth finishing on at this stage. You know, if you're going to apply for the program and if you're going to be successfully come onto the program, which we'll talk about later on, you will be challenged. This is not, learning. This is not a training piece. This is about challenging the core business model and core business principles that you're bringing to the business and helping you to flesh those out for growth, for scale, for delivering real significant impact in the climate space, because that's what we need to be doing. And that's kind of our mission set in Resolve. And I think in Móna and Móna too, that we want to help companies that are trying to do that. So on that note, I'm going to pause for a moment because we're going to be moving into our next segment. I'll hand back to David, I think, and I'll be chatting to you again in a few minutes about the actual application process as well. Thank you.
Okay, great stuff. Pádraig, if I can ask you to switch back on your camera. Wonderful. Look at that smile. Oh, I missed that smile. So listen, just following on from some of Alan's comments there, we know that people have reservations about joining these programs. It is not an inconsiderate ask to commit to 2 days a fortnight over that time period. You'll be asking questions about whether it's worth it, who will be there, is it worth my time, will I get on with the rest of the people, will I have time to actually run my business, right? We get those kinds of questions all the time. And they're all valid questions, and we'll always tell you the good side of that story, and Móna and Móna will always tell you that it's important. But it's really useful, we find, to be able to bring a previous participant back to from I won't say the horse's mouth, because that's not a nice thing to say about Pádraig, but to hear it firsthand, their experience, what it was like to engage first with Móna and Móna and to apply and to go through that process. And then warts and all what the program was actually like. So my colleague Angela Duffy, who's joined us here as well this afternoon, another one of the Resolve Partners co-founding team, is going to have a conversation with Pádraig O'Toole, who is the CEO of AutumnSoft, who were one of the first participants on the Accelerate Green program back in February of this year. So Angela and Pádraig, I'll leave it over to the two of you.
Thanks very much, David. So yeah, I guess I'm part of the team, but I wasn't on a program with you, Pádraig. So to make it more authentic, the guys asked me to have the chat with you instead. So we only met yesterday because we had a quick hello call and had a quick chat. So I guess we talked a little bit and got to know each other's backgrounds and a bit about ourselves. And I suppose that's a good way to start. Do you want to give the audience a little bit of background on yourself? And I actually thought it was very interesting, your path in terms of career, but personal through to career and how you ended up as CEO of AutumnSoft.
Okay. Yeah, I was head of Western Europe for a company that we had spun out of MIT and floated on NASDAQ, and we had a bit of a roller coaster ride, and then we were doing a merger with Novell, and I was in the south of France with a friend of mine who was a VC, who said, "It's time to move on. I've got a great company for you. We've invested in," and that was AutomSoft. And it looked like we had a possible acquisition within 12 months. So it looked like it'd be a quick opportunity to get in and get out and make a few quid. And as a lot of these things happen, that wasn't the way it worked. So, so a bit of background to the company. It was founded by some genuine data science engineering guys who had built technology for collecting and storing and analyzing data from automation systems that you find in plants and factories and industries that have high degrees of uncertainty around their manufacturing process. And the idea was that they would be able to crunch really large volumes of this sensor data and be able to make sense of it faster than everybody else. And they did build their technology, and it was really good. But in a classic background of engineering-led companies, they did it without having any idea about who the customers would be. So that was kind of why they thought they had great technology and no customers, and maybe I could do something. So we sold it into biotech and we sold it into pharma, who had that problem. And that went well, but it was an incredibly long sales cycle. And we sold it into the oil and gas business. But we had a few traumas along the way, but by the time we got to, I guess, 2017, 2018, 2019, then we got locked down. We were really just bumping along the bottom. We couldn't figure out how to grow this thing with these interminably long sales cycles, and we knew we had great technology. So, so then Alan called me and said, you know, you might have a look at this and see if you're interested, and maybe we'd have a chat and see if we're interested in you, and see where it goes. And by this time, we had one of our customers was Móna, and our technology was being used to monitor their wind farms. So we were collecting all the data from the wind farms and the turbines and everything, and we were producing these dashboards that they were using to see how much they were generating and what the health of the turbines was and so on. So that was kind of how we got to this point, I guess.
I suppose in terms of the detail there, where you're talking about capturing data and, you know, collating that and displaying it, you know, you could look at that now and say, gosh, there's a lot of people who do that. So how is it unique? How is it, you know, fulfilling a need for some of these companies? I'm from a tech or a med tech background, sort of the sort of science pharma, big operational side. So I have some sense of that. Maybe go through it from some of those early stage customers to maybe what you do for the likes of Móna might give the audience a better idea of the technology itself and the value.
Yeah, I think there's a really thin line between having a technology that's really unique and having a technology that nobody else has because there's not a big enough market for it. So you kind of need to figure that one. So there's lots of data companies out there, but managing sensor data, so time series data, produces particular architectural constraints. So you can't really manage it using a traditional relational like SQL-based database because you get a huge amount of unused space. And even in a cloud environment, you end up with huge costs for relatively little benefit. So what these guys had done was that they had literally architected. So what they did was they took the shell of a database that was being used by the guys who run the particle accelerator in CERN and in Stanford, and they had repurposed that object framework structure to create a database engine that had incredibly fast ability to ingest large amounts of data and retrieve it without a huge hardware overhead. So in a sense, typically the way that these things work is that the more data you have, the more hardware you need, the more processing power you need, and they've kind of broken that link. So it was a really interesting engineering breakthrough. The challenge was that you needed to find people who had very large amounts of that kind of data that they needed to crunch really quickly. I want to say large amounts in the pharma industry that you'll be very familiar with. You're talking about, say, in a bioreactor, you may be sampling a temperature or something at 100,000 times a second. So you've got to be able to hold all of that data and still be able to analyze it, search through it, and produce, you know, analytics that are meaningful and useful for the people. So that was kind of the background. That was kind of the uniqueness of the technology. It's interesting because the Accelerate Green program totally shifted us. The experience of the Accelerate Green program shifted us. And my conversations with Alan at the start were, you know, this could be a really good thing for you. I went back and talked to colleagues and stuff, and we generally came to the view that we were around so long that we had definitely started tramlining in our thinking, and we were struggling to innovate, even though we felt that we had something in the work we were doing around clean tech for Borden Móna, and we had done some stuff with the clean tech people in EI, and that hadn't yielded any kind of breakthroughs. And our kind of initial breakthrough was probably the first session on Accelerate Green, when we talked about what value do your customers get from your software, or from your technology, or from your product. And we realized that, you know, well, I realized, because it was me, that I was making lots of assumptions about the benefit that Borden Móna were getting without really having asked them. Like, they were happy, we knew they were happy, they kept on paying their bill, which is good. But I never actually sat down and said, what exactly do you use it for? We were just assuming that we knew what they used it for. So in that conversation, in that first session at Accelerate Green, what's your proposition? What's your value? Why do customers buy from you? I was given a spiel, and I was realizing deep inside me that I wasn't really very sure of this. So that triggered me to, Angela, I may not be following your structure here, but that triggered me to go back to Borden Móna and start having conversations about sitting down with them in detail and saying, how do you use our stuff, and why do you keep paying your bill? And like a lot of the time with tech companies, and well, all companies, you're kind of afraid to go back and do that with your customer in case you're triggering a thought on their part, which is, well, why am I paying this bill? And why do I use this stuff? But so that led us, and I guess the Borden Móna dimension is really important in this, because and we've had a great relationship with them, and they've been a great customer for us. But they gave us huge amounts of their time, partly because of the commitment to Accelerate Green. But we got a lot of time where conversation after conversation, you know, if your software did this and this and this on top of what it does, that could change my day in this way. And here's the other thing that keeps me awake at night that you don't help with at all. But if, you know, and I don't know if you could help with it, but if you could find somebody who could help, and so on. So we started having these conversations during the process. So there are a number of things happening in the Accelerate Green process. First of all was that we started with this moment of all the stuff that you think you know. When you start to get challenged on it, you start to find that you don't really know it at all. You kind of know some of it and some of its assumptions. And that push on what's your data? Do you have solid data points? Like, for example, I mean, I said to you, Angela, before, we knew why the pharma companies bought our stuff, because there was a US government regulation that said they had to have their data in the structure, and we had fed that. And so we had signed deals with people like Pfizer and Baxter and Sanofi and so on around the world. So that was good. We knew that. But we wanted to, the clean tech space is just manna from heaven. You know, it's got investment, it's got innovation, it's got massive growth. And then, as I said to you, as we're going part of the way through the Accelerate Green program, the Ukraine thing happened, which meant that wind energy, renewable energy suddenly got an even greater acceleration factor. So we really, but also that part of that acceleration factor is that it attracts people who have got huge scale to go, hey, there's big money in here, maybe we can go in and do stuff. So you've got bigger competition coming in after you. So you've got to consolidate what you've got, learn from what you have. And as we were going through the process, we had so many different people talking to us about things that you don't get conversations about ordinarily, like pricing, for example. You can do, you know, your full MBA, and nobody's going to talk about how you price software and when you're pricing too much and when you're pricing too little. I had great conversations when I went back to Borden Móna. I said, you know, I think we need to increase our prices. And they go, oh, I'm not sure about that. I'll go, well, you know, I've been on Accelerate Green that you sponsor, and they said we need to increase our prices. So
great excuse, good excuse.
We had a great conversation, and Tom Egan in Borden Móna said to me, I'll go with a price increase, but you got to show me where you're going to give me more value. So that was back to, okay, so we'll take the dashboards that we give you, and we would get all this other additional information like spot price of carbon, stuff that you're having to go hunting for every day. We put all of that in the dashboards as well. And so we found ourselves becoming less of a data management company and more of a specific applications, business intelligence, decision support technology company. And that's a shift strategically. A lot of us on the program made that shift. I mean, the guys in Cameramatics, when they started out, and they're very open about this, their pitch was around driver safety and fuel economy. And as they went through, it was, we really think we got an opportunity here around environmental sustainability, and that's becoming more. So we had speakers in talking about why sustainability is a big metric in CEOs' performance measures. So that trickles all the way down to when we do a new deal, it's got to add something to sustainability. So I get my bonus at the end of the year. So they are starting to shift their stuff. And we had a great experience because it was very collaborative. And as Alan said, you know, there's a lot of mutual learning goes on. There's a real camaraderie that's built sometimes very late at night in the bar in the Tullamore Arms or Court or whatever it's called. But there were great conversations too. You know, conversations at 1 o'clock in the morning around, you know, when are you going to go for funding? What do you think about this shift? We've got this pitch coming up, and in the middle of it, one of the guys had a massive pitch in the UK, and everybody in some way was engaged in the conversation about giving ideas to refine the pitch, and we all kind of felt a sense of belonging to that. So it was good. But so I think from where we have been, AutumnSoft, as I mean, we're still a data technology company, but we're probably much more of a decision support renewable energy company, and that's really where our shift is going to. And since Accelerate Green, we've done an enormous amount of work. I'm delighted to say our revenue is substantially up this year, and things are looking really good. We signed a bunch of new deals, but we're also aggressively going after that renewable energy market. Our proposition has been really tightly refined, and that was another part of it. Was we had a great sorry, I'm brain dead a little bit.
You keep going. That's great. I agree. This is fantastic.
We had a great session where we went through websites, and you know, and so the website, you look, the homepage of the website is, you know, make the world a better place. I can't remember who was running the session, but it was like, what does that mean?
Yeah, specifics.
And then we all started going back to our own websites, and we all had a version of make the world a better place by buying our technology. I realized that wasn't really helping anything. We went through a very complicated and intense process around what is your message that you can give, you know, the 30-second elevator ride, but that isn't waffly. And it's, you know, there's an old saying, I didn't have time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one. I mean, distilling something down is really hard. And what we ended up with was generate more power and sell it at the highest price. We didn't say anything about technology. We didn't say anything about how our solution works. And as engineering and technology people, we realized that all the time what we sell is functionality. We've got this more functionality, more functionality. What people are buying is, how does this change my day? So if I circle back to finish to Tom Egan's comment to me, Tom Egan said, Tom is the head of the renewable generation. And he said, look, when I come in the morning, I look at your screen and I've got 60% of my information. And then I got to look at the spot price of carbon. I got to look at the future price of gas, the current price of gas. I look at localized weather reports for each of my wind farms. I got to go through each one of those and see what the likely generation capacity is. And then I have a look at what the forecast maintenance is for turbines that will be out. And then out of all of that, I've got to decide on what my pricing strategy is. And then I look at the air grid market and I see, you know, who's bidding what into it. And then I have to make a decision. Do I bid 80%, 90%, 100%? Do I hold some back? Do I hope that I'll get an uplift on my pricing? And I got to do all that before 10 o'clock in the morning. That's my business. So our job was, how can we make him, how can we enable him to make decisions quicker with all the information he needs in one place, so that by 10 o'clock, he's been able to make his decision, review his decision, analyze it, refine it, and close it down. And when we started out, we weren't helping him to do that. By the way, he's a senior guy, so he gets a checkbook. That's also very important. So we figured, make Tom happy. Tom's got a checkbook. This will be good. So it was a big shift for us, not just in, you know, modifying our technology, but it was a whole realignment of the way we looked at the market and went to market with a proposition instead of, and it was funny because I went back afterwards and looked at other technology companies and all software guys, and I can only really talk about software, retreat back eventually to saying, look how cool the technology is. We're cloud, you know, we've got AI, AI. But you know, it's like, that doesn't matter. It's like, can I sell more power?
It's the customer focus, you know, and that's where, so a lot of the things you say without me even, you know, having any to and fro here is, it's really about being challenged. It's about the stepping back, as you say, and saying, do you know, I've made a lot of assumptions. And as Alan pointed out, we are the first people to challenge your assumptions and send you back out to the customers. So it is about the customer and what their day-to-day is like, what their challenges are, what they need to achieve and their outcomes. So you build for their success. But you can see, even in the conversation around the board, Móna and Tom and others, that you know them now, you know them really well, and you know what they do day to day and what they have to achieve. So we have a big focus on that, and it's come right through in what you're saying. So that's part of what we'll do. We will send you back out to, you know, understand your own customers. I suppose one of the other things, and you touched on it there a bit, is the format. So we do get the pushback, David mentioned it, about I couldn't commit that time. We're very deliberate in doing it in an in-person setting and deliberate in having it in a semi-formal kind of structure, bringing a lot of different speakers in, enabling you to build relationships with peers and with a network. Can you talk a little bit about that and the pros and cons? Because this is your story and not mine. I wasn't, you know, even there the last program, the program you were on. So tell us about that piece and, you know, the goods, the bads, and maybe the uglies or whatever.
I think it's a very interesting point, actually, because you look at it and you go, oh, 2 days every 2 weeks, that's a killer. And then mentoring sessions, how will I get anything done? And you realize it's, when you're in it, you realize this is the most valuable time you're spending. What's a killer is actually not getting out of your business, and needing to, if you need to control everything and you can't step away for 2 days every 2 weeks, something wrong, something bigger wrong. You just don't think you can, but you can, because the world doesn't stop when you're gone. And what we found, we did have that apprehension, without a doubt. I definitely had it. I don't know if my team had it. They may well have been delighted to be rid of me, but I found that it also forced me to delegate more, to leave people to make more decisions than I had been. And you know, there's pretty much nothing that's going to go on fire over a 2-day absence. It's really not. And you can always check in. Guys, if they had to make a call, they went and made a call. But the kind of contract was, look, it's really important, it's really urgent. Your business comes first, you're still running a business. We're going to be flexible around that. But you need to commit to this thing. And that's really what it's down to. So, you know, you're not in a padded cell in total isolation. You need to go outside and make a call. You try and schedule it around lunchtime or something like that, to be respectful to the other people that are there. And the longer you spend there, the more you realize that the time you're spending there in the group, in the discussions and the talks, is really, really valuable. And sometimes you end up dropping out of something because you got something really important on and realize that you missed something that was really substantial, and you end up trying to drag it out of people later on that night because they're all saying, this was really striking, didn't expect it to be, and you're thinking, damn it, okay, so what was it, what did they say? So first of all, it's not a huge commitment. People do, you know, various training courses and stuff like that take them out of work. We do numerous meaningless meetings in business generally, sometimes because the customers want to do them, but we waste a lot of our time. I think this is time really, really well spent. I think the guys in Resolve were really respectful of our time. And it was, what I did find was it was really intense. They don't do rest breaks or waffle time or anything like that. It was like you got to lunch, you're going, okay, thanks, we'll take a break. Well, we've got these 3 speakers for you at lunch, and they're just going to talk. Grab a sandwich, sit down, and we'll keep going. So you were quite tired at the end of the day. We got about an hour at 5 o'clock to 6. You know, have a shower, go work out, go for a run or something like that. And then we're back in. The evening speakers, I mean, stuff that, like, it isn't just, here's some guys who ran great businesses and made a lot of money and look how successful they are. We had Vincent Cleary, the CEO of Glennisk, and his factory burnt down. Everybody knows his factory burnt down because he was all over the TV and everything. But he talked about that. How do you cope when you walk in one morning and your business is literally in ashes on the ground, and you've still got orders and stuff like that? And how do you keep going? And he talked about the kindness of strangers, and he talked about, you know, the structure and the way he went after it and the emotion of it, and all things that are not stuff that anybody's ever going to teach you in a business school. But you sit down and listen to somebody like that, and you get an understanding of the need for resilience and the reservoirs of resilience that you can find in a crucial time. So it's much bigger than just let's make your business run faster, because what does make your business go better is much bigger than the traditional stuff of sell more stuff and make more money. To do, oh, that's what you need to do, but to do that, there are so many moving parts, and part of the process was showing you stuff that, you know, bringing in somebody to talk about an aspect, something they did well that went great, something that they did that looked great that was a disaster. And really from so many different backgrounds and so much variance that, you know, a guy who came in who managed to buy a chain of dentist stores in the UK and redesign them and sell off 10 out of the 100 in order to make back his money, and then build up the other, and you know, listen to him talk about and asking him questions about what his thought process was and why he saw there was an opportunity where nobody else saw one. And those are all things that you then go back and start to apply to your own business. So I think to go back to, sorry, I'm answering in a very long-winded way your question about the commitment, but what I'm trying to describe, I suppose, is that there is a breadth of value that you get from that commitment, that it's highly concentrated, so you will be tired without question, and you will be challenged, and not challenged in any way that embarrasses you. You're not stuck in the spot and kicked around the place. That's, you know, I think it's very respectful. It's very respectful of the achievements of people who have got to this point to be on the program. It's respectful of their commitment, that it values their time, and it's respectful of their dignity as people as well. So there's no kind of let's humiliate this guy in order to show a lesson to it. That doesn't happen. What does happen is a great deal of collaborative exploration, challenging, and as people get more comfortable, the challenging gets heavier and heavier, but it's welcomed. And that pushes people into reassessing their own kind of red lines, if you like, the stuff that they took for granted about the absolutes about their business. So my business could be something slightly adjacent to this that might be way more profitable if I modified this. I can honestly say in the time I've run a number of different companies, and I've done various programs and lots and lots of third level education, and this was probably amongst the most valuable periods of time that I've spent in my career.
Thank you
really
very much.
really,
I mean, we couldn't.
I can't. Like I came back. I convened a meeting of all of my people. I brought over my guys from the UK, and I went through the Accelerate Green slide decks that I thought were ones that we needed to think about. And I have them all over again this week. And we were talking about Accelerate Green this morning. So, and we finished in early summer. So it's still informing us, and we're still going back to the materials, and we're going back to the challenges that we got to say, you know, we don't want to lose this either. This forced us back into an innovative way of looking at ourselves and thinking, and therefore, you know, we want to make sure that we build on this and build on this and build on this. And I know the guys are attempting to create a network of alumni and so on. I think that would be very valuable.
Yeah, and you know, I have a phrase that, and we'll run out of time, but you know, sometimes you need to slow down to speed up. And Alan's a great guy. He's always slagging me off for my little phrases and quotes and things, but you know, to take that step back and to be surrounded by, and we find it hard to describe the program. I know Alan talked to it there, but being steeped in it is slightly different experience. And I think you've done a great job, and thank you for this time to explain that.
You're very welcome, guys. You're very welcome. It's a pleasure, genuinely.
Thank you very much, Porrick. And I'll hand over to Alan, who's popped up there because he's looking at his clock and saying, come on now, hurry up.
You're a better man.
Thanks. And over to you, Alan.
Thank you both. And thank you, Porrick. You said lots of nice things, but I know they were heartfelt for you. And we talk about some of those experiences you had on the program as part of our lexicon now as well. And we do remember that first day when we asked you, like, what are they getting from your product? And you went, I don't know. Crap. I should be asking this question more. And we went from there, and it's been great experience and great working with you. And we look forward to seeing your continued success in the climate sector and everything else besides. I'm going to share just the last couple of slides. So the plan that we're going to try and do, if I can just get these things to click on, I'm going to talk for just a few minutes about the closing process and the application process. And then the Resolve team and the Board of Móna team will actually stay on the seminar after we've finished in case there's more questions coming in. I know Sharon's already been answering a couple of questions already. So to take you through the process, closing date for applications is this Friday, December the 2nd. You know, we haven't set a time, you call it close of business, but realistically, if you get your applications in on Friday, all will be good. You'll find the application form on accelerategreen.ie. It's a fairly simple Google form. We're not looking for business plans. We're not looking for elaborate information. Really, if you know what you're talking about, you'll do the form in about 15 minutes. It's not a deal breaker, because then we want to meet you. So of all the companies that apply, we'll make a quick assessment and a judgment call, which I'll talk to in a moment. And then we will invite you. It's a pretty quick turnaround from December the 2nd. We will invite you to come in and meet us online from Tuesday the 13th to Thursday the 15th of December, and you'll just grab a time slot with us and pitch a little bit of the business. And I'm always very keen to emphasize that that's a two-way process. Yes, we'll be finding out about you, but you have a huge opportunity to test us and to challenge us and to talk to us and make sure that the program is going to be right for you. It is a big time commitment. We do ask a lot of the companies that come on the program, and we're comfortable with that, but we want you to be sure that we're the right team for you and that we're the right program for you as well. So from the 15th, we'll make our final shortlist, and we'll invite about 8 companies to join the program, which will start on the 26th of January. And very quickly, from those companies that are offered a place on the program, they'll have the full diary of events from the first day on the 26th of January all the way through to the final day conference on Thursday the 1st of June. So the type of companies that should apply, we're loving all these pictures of our of previous founders and previous companies that have come on our program. So the type of companies that should apply are ones that you've heard us talking about them. They could be established scaling climate technology companies. So that would be a business that their core value proposition, their core technology, everything that they do is addressing something to do in the climate space, be that energy or electrification of mobility or valorization of waste or circular business models, whatever the case may be. They might be high growth SMEs pivoting to the climate change economy, a little bit like you just heard from Porrick in the Autumn Soft example, where he came from the pharmaceutical sector, but realized that the technology could grow and expand in their utilization in the renewable energy sector. And I love the value proposition that Porrick came to, which was generate more energy, charge more money, which was fantastic. You might be an earlier stage. We're okay to have earlier stage companies, but you are going to be an innovation-driven enterprise. You are going to be, science, engineering, technology at your core, at your base. And that earlier stage, come and have a chat to us about it. If you thought and we thought that you were pretty close to having a catalytic moment around your seed investment, or a primary corporate customer or first corporate customer, we're happy to chat to you on the program. As a guide, in our first cohort, we had 8 companies, and probably 2 of them were earlier stage and 6 of them were slightly later stage. So we have that capacity to look at companies across the spectrum. And it's probably, we have that flexibility actually, because maybe unlike a more traditional accelerator program, accelerators normally invest cash for return of for a piece of equity. We don't do that. This program is sponsored by Board Móna. It doesn't make an equity investment in your business, so it gives us a lot of flexibility to take on later stage companies or earlier stage companies as we see fit, if they are delivering business models and technologies that are speaking to, you know, renewable energy, carbon reduction, the waste economy, the circular economy. We are looking for companies on an all-Ireland basis. Ireland, Northern Ireland, we can take international companies. We've had requests before. One of the people in the picture at the moment on the right-hand side actually flew in every couple of weeks for the program from Germany, although his business was predominantly based in Limerick. We do have a kind of a special hat tip and a special awareness of companies that have a connection to the Midlands counties, but that's not a requirement. But if you do have a Midlands connection, there's a space on the application form to fill out and let us know about that. In terms of the evaluation criteria, that first evaluation to invite you into pitch, and then at the pitch stage, that will be done by Board Móna and by Resolve Partners. And what we're looking for is, we're looking for companies that are on sectoral specification. That seems fairly obvious. We're looking for strong market characteristics with global potential. So we're looking for businesses that are, you know, we don't mind businesses that are trading domestically or trading domestically maybe in the services economy, but we want to see that there's an ambition for you to take it further and take it more international and take it at more scale. We want to have a bigger impact on the climate space. So we want to have companies that want to come with us on that type of a journey. We probably need to have a balanced team. You heard Porrick talking about bringing some of his learnings back to some of his engineers and tech team. He also brought some of his finance colleagues with him to finance modules. So we probably need you to think about, you know, having a balanced team. People coming on their own or just being a solo founder in the business will struggle, because you'll find yourself being pulled from left, right, and center. We'd like to hear a little bit about your, and we'll judge based on things like your traction and validation. That's not always about revenue. If you're early stage, that might be about partnerships, that might be about corporate engagements with pilots, that might be around working with European funding bodies, or whatever the case may be. So we want to hear about your traction and validation. We're interested in the novelty, led by science, technology, engineering. Potential for IP, but not a requirement. We're interested in, as Porrick said, you don't always have to be absolutely unique. Sometimes it's about having something that somebody hasn't done yet, even if it's not pure IP. So that's our overview on the program. You'll find out more details from us. You can either hit us up at hello@resolvepartners.ie. You can go to accelerategreen.ie. There's more information there, and obviously the application form. We would love to hear from you in advance of this Friday, December the 2nd, and we would love to see your applications coming in by Friday, December the 2nd. As I said, David, Angela, Sharon, and myself, and maybe some other Board Móna colleagues will stay on. I think there's some more questions have been asked and answered while I've been chatting the last few minutes, and we'll stay on and continue to do a little bit more of that if and as needed. David.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to acknowledge that Sharon has kindly answered a whole bunch of those questions there, and one or two others I've gone back to directly. Probably the best thing to do, if people do have specific questions about their own eligibility for the program, you might have a question on, is my sector relevant? You know, is my company size relevant? Is the commercial maturity relevant? One-to-one conversations with one of the Resolve Partners team is you know, probably the easiest and fastest way to do that. So between now and Friday, hello@resolvepartners.ie is probably the easiest way for you to do that, rather than maybe going into too much of the detail here. So we're not flooded with questions, Alan. We might just leave it there.
Sure.
Okay. So what I'd like to just wrap up with my thanks. Thank you so much to Sharon for her time and you know, bringing that clarity and about Board Móna's purpose and intentions and vision for the program. And you're a great representative, as I said, of all the colleagues who've joined us down in Bora and Tullamore over the first two programs, and really looking forward to getting even deeper engagement with Borden and Móna in 2023 with this next crop of Accelerate Green companies. So we will, there's a couple of questions coming in there, just maybe worth addressing one or two of them. Sharon, you had already answered a question about state aid. I was reading that question there, read the state aid question. Does that mean that this isn't de minimis funding? Yeah, just to echo on Alan's point from just a few moments ago, the Accelerate Green program is an experiential program. It's about getting you access to Borden and Móna's expertise, Resolve Partners expertise, and the community of people that we bring into the accelerator. There isn't direct funding provided as part of Accelerate Green, so there's no question there of de minimis coming into effect at all.
There's a question around another round in 2023. So at this point in time, I think this is a January to June program. So this is the main program for that year. We may run a pre-accelerator, was mentioned by Sharon earlier, and that's something we did during the end of the summer last year. So those would be the main programs.
I think, if in doubt about whether or not there will be future programs, the best thing to do is to get onto the radar of Resolve Partners and Borden and Móna by putting in your expression of interest now, because it definitely is a binary kind of experience with us. Companies that we would have said no to who applied in the very first instance back this time last year, we had ongoing conversations and interactions between those companies and Borden and Móna throughout the subsequent months. So it doesn't have to be on program, and there are other opportunities to engage with Resolve and Borden and Móna. So if you want to put your head over the parapet, an application through the expression of interest is a really good way for us to be aware of what you're trying to do and see if there's other opportunities, even if you don't make it onto this version of or this iteration of the program. So encourage people to apply. Okay, I am going to call a halt there, just in interest of everybody's time and respecting everybody's time. So again, thank you to Sharon and to Pádraig for giving of their time here this evening. Thank you to you all for spending time with us here this evening. I found that entertaining. It's always great to hear Pádraig talking about his experiences. I'm super excited again about kicking off the program, and hopefully we get to deliver same and even greater impact into companies, as we said, who are really trying to address some of our big challenges on a global basis. So thank you all for your time. accelerategreen.ie is the website where you can submit your expression of interest. December 2nd is the closing date. hello@resolvepartners.ie if you have any questions and you want to get a hold of myself or Angela or Alan to follow up on any of the conversations I've had here today. Thank you all very much, and I wish you all a very pleasant evening.
Thanks, David. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.